Hi, my name is David Riddle. Welcome to our YouTube channel, How to Home Life. Today, I'll be demonstrating my technique for making IKEA furniture last forever using Superglue, Cyanoacrylate, or CA. As you may have already experienced, IKEA furniture doesn't seem to last very long, quickly becomes wobbly, and sometimes falls apart with the slightest amount of stress. Using water-thin CA glue and assembling IKEA furniture makes any furniture they offer much stronger and lasts many times longer than it normally would. As a designer and manufacturer of shipped flat furniture, I know how to make it last, but you will never be able to disassemble your IKEA furniture without a sledgehammer. Most IKEA furniture is made with laminated particle board or glued together sawdust. All IKEA furniture is designed to be assembled at home with simple hand tools like a screwdriver to install the posts and cams utilized in their assembly. These posts have a wood thread that is screwed into the particle board, and this is where shipped flat furniture fails first. The hole that this post screws into has to be larger than it should be so the average hand strength can screw it in. My method of filling this hole with water-thin CA and letting it soak into the particle board before screwing in the post forms a very large and super strong anchor for these posts after an accelerator is sprayed on to cure the CA. After the components are assembled tightly using the cams, the entire joint is flooded with CA and allowed to soak deeply into the mating joints. An accelerator is sprayed on to cure the CA. When all of the components and joints are treated this way with CA and accelerator, you will be amazed how rigid and substantially shipped flat furniture can be. Before you watch this demonstration, I suggest you watch our CA Glue for Beginners video that provides you the basics of how Superglue works. You will also learn my special technique for preparing the glue bottle, which will greatly enhance the outcome of your CA gluing experience. Please see the link in the description section for the beginner's video. If this video helps you, please like it and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing to our channel, you will help fund our videos and you will be notified each time we release a new video. Please share in the comments section your experience with assembling IKEA furniture with and without Superglue. I'm going to show you building two IKEA drawers. One using my special glue technique using CA and one without to show and demonstrate how much more rigid it is with the CA installed. The first step we're going to do is to place a glue bottle on a flat surface, squeeze the bottle so that we can pre-squeeze it, and then I'm going to lower this tip into this hole and I'm going to fill the hole with Krazy Glue all the way to the top, and then I'm going to suck it back out again. Then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the threads, and I'm going to screw it all the way in so it's flush with the surface. And then I'm going to hit it with Accelerator. That is a solidly installed post. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to grab the other posts and I'm going to squeeze the bottle again, fill up the hole with glue, suck it out, put a little bit of glue on the post and run it in. Till it's flush with the surface. And then I'm going to hit it with Accelerator. I'm going to continue by flipping this around, doing the exact same function I did before. Add a little glue to the threads and hit it with Accelerator. Now that we've glued all the posts in with CA and use the Accelerator, these posts will never ever come out of this drawer front. That is a major failure on a lot of IKEA drawer fronts, is that the posts pull out and blow out the particle board. Now that we've flooded the particle board with CA, ran in the screw and accelerated it, that is a locked in post, will never ever come loose. What we're going to do now is take the two sides of this drawer and we're going to place them on the, and you can see there's two sides. This drawer goes this way, and this drawer goes this way. And then we're going to place 4 cams, these metal cams, into these holes. And then I'm going to tighten these. Move this glue so it doesn't spill it. Basically, tighten these 4 cams, and because one of the most important things that IKEA depends on is that these actually are flexible. So what we're going to have to do after we tighten this, we're going to have to make it square. Okay, so after I do these, that's just a temporary thing where we put these sides and I don't overly tighten those. Then I'm going to take a drawer bottom and I'm going to place it in the slot. And then I'm going to take a drawer back and I'm going to place it in the slot. So now we have a drawer. Now, IKEA supplies these 4 plastic snap-in plugs. What we're not going to do right now is we're not going to use these plugs right now. What we're going to do first is to square this door up. And the reason, and here's the square. And what we need to do is make sure that this is absolutely square. And the reason we do this is because the normal flexibility of IKEA drawers allows them to flex certainly to make them square. If they're not square, it doesn't matter. But now that I glue it, it's going to be extremely important to make it completely square. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold this square very tightly. I'm going to increase the tension on these cams to the greatest I can make them, as tight as I can make them, while holding that there. They're quite tight. And then I'm going to go back over to this side and make this square and really tighten these while observing the square to make sure it's absolutely secure. There. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check the back and see if the back is square. And it is. So the first thing that we're going to do now is we're going to apply some glue along the outside edge of this drawer. And that will soak in to the particle board. And I'm going to do it there, and I'm going to do it here. And I'm going to let that soak in. I'm also going to do it on the inside of the drawer because it will flow directly into that seam. You see it soaks up a tremendous amount of glue because it's filling up all of that particle board. Let's check our square again and make sure everything is perfectly square. And yes, it is. And now we're going to hit this with Accelerator. Okay. Now that we've completed that drawer, I'm going to grab a rag here and just wipe up some excess Accelerator. The Accelerator will not harm the vinyl lamination that this furniture has on it. So now we have a drawer, and now what we're going to do is we're going to lay this drawer on its side, and before we glue in these or pound in these plastic posts, I'm going to place a tremendous amount of glue in this hole just to make it stronger. I'm squeezing the bottle and leaving a lot of glue in there, and then I pound it in. The same thing with this one. All the way in, coat it all with glue, pound it in. Now, this drawer is very secure, but we're going to make it vastly more secure by flooding this joint completely with Krazy Glue, with Superglue, or CA, whatever you prefer. Wipe off the excess Accelerator because it's already cured the glue. And I'm going to glue this, again, this side. Plenty of glue. It won't hurt. It won't flow. It keeps the capillary action of the glue, absolutely sucks it into the joint. I'm going to let it soak for just a second. Then I'm going to hit it with Accelerator. Let it cure. It cures that quickly. Wipe it off. But more importantly, I'm going to add a lot more glue on the inside of this joint. Let it soak in. Accelerator. Now normally on a drawer bottom, they let the drawer bottom float. But this is made out of particle board and composite material. It will not expand and contract during changes in humidity. It stays very stable. So normally you wouldn't glue the drawer bottom in, but these drawer bottoms do have a propensity for falling out if you drop a heavy object in them. By simply running a bead of glue all along that drawer bottom, that will never, ever come loose. All the way along the drawer bottom. I mean, we use a lot of glue, but glue is cheap compared to the life of this furniture. Once you do these procedures, this furniture will never fail. Unless you want to use a sledgehammer, then it will fail. I'm also going to glue the front. That adds a lot more additional surface area for the glue. As you can see, there's a little bit of wicking. We don't care about that. We just now want to do a little Accelerator. And now we have a solid drawer that's never going to fail. Now I'm going to assemble a drawer without CA, without any gluing. And now I have a completed drawer. Now I'm going to take the drawer that was not assembled with CA and I'm going to show you where the problem in IKEA furniture is. No matter how tight you tighten those cams, these plastic plugs offer no strength. The whole drawer is completely flexible, completely without strength. Okay? Now I'm going to take the assembled drawer using CA and I'm going to try to force. It is not moving at all. I cannot do this. It will not flex. It is a solid structure. It forms an absolutely solid framing box. This is completely unacceptable for any lifespan. I'm going to take this whole thing apart and glue it all with CA, and it'll be just like this one. Now we're going to assemble the smaller drawers, and the smaller drawers have a unique feature. They have one post and one dowel. I'm going to use the same technique I used before to put in the dowels. Now I'm going to take one of the drawer slides, and you'll notice it's got a small hole and a big hole, and this is where these dowels go, in the smaller hole. Basically, you push that into the smaller hole, and then this is the trick of getting that dowel glued in and accelerated on both of these sides. A dowel, and then again glued in. And accelerated. Now here we're going to use a slightly different technique, and that is we're going to actually fill that hole with glue so that when this goes into that hole, it's going to be immediately attached with glue. I'm going to fill up the hole a little bit, and then I'll get a cam. I'll place the cam and tighten it. Now we take this again, squeeze the bottle, add plenty of glue, and now this drawer is just as rigid as the other drawer, even though it's smaller, just as rigid. This particular IKEA furniture piece has factory installed drawer slides, and those drawer slides are only held in with 2 screws into particle board. We're going to make sure that those drawer slides never become loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the screws, the 2 screws right here. I'm just going to let them sit there. And I'm going to fill these holes with Krazy Glue, with Superglue, with CA. And this makes those drawer slides never, ever, ever come off. Occasionally, the nozzle exposed to a lot of accelerator will indeed get plugged up. You just simply cut off the tip of it, because that's usually the part that gets plugged. And I guarantee this drawer slide will never, ever come off. What we're going to do now is install 6 posts into the sidewalls of this cabinet. Now I'm going to again use the same technique I used before, using Krazy Glue, flooding it, sucking it out, adding some to the threads, the same that you've already seen. The thing that's different on this is that it also has positions for 4 dowels, but I don't put the dowels in this side because I can't fill these with glue. I'm going to attach them to the front and the bottom, and the top. So anyway, let me glue these in. Now we're going to place 4 dowels into the base of this cabinet. We simply press the dowels in and then seat them all the way down. And you can hear the change in sound when they seat all the way in. Now I put my glasses on and I'm going to add some glue. And it'll soak in to that dowel. And then I'm going to turn this over and place 2 more dowels. And again, tap them all the way down. You can hear the change in the sound. There we go. And then add my glue. Then it soaks in. And those dowels will provide an incredibly strong thing. I'm going to also a little bit of Accelerator on those dowels. I didn't do this side. Now we're going to add glue to these dowel holes on the side of the cabinet. We're just going to add a little bit to act as a stiffener. Now I'm going to fold this up and I'm going to line this up. And then I'm going to take these different cams. These are plastic cams instead of aluminum. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I moved the main part of the cabinet over on its side. I have not glued that seam yet, and there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that later. Right now what I'm going to do is glue in 12 posts as rapidly as possible. And now I'm going to install the dowels. And of course I'm going to seat all the dowels all the way down. You can hear that change in the sound when it gets all the way down. And now I'm going to add glue to each one of these to make sure that it is extremely secure in the particle board. Let it soak in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to place the prepared top and bottom onto this cabinet, and I'm going to seat it, but I'm not going to add any glue to the dowels that are going to go into these holes. And there's a reason for that. I'll explain later. Right now I'm just simply placing this into the appropriate holes. And now I can take a 2x4 and seat it completely. Now I'm going to put in the cams. Like I said earlier, I'm not adding any glue at this juncture because I want to show you, even after tightening all the cams, that it is still in need of Now the reason I don't glue the cams in is because after I glue all the seams together, the cams become totally of zero use. So now what I'm going to do is flip this over and demonstrate that with all of those things tightened, you can see how much this cabinet still flexes. Now, after I glue all of this, it will not flex at all. What will happen is that the glue will capillary into not only the seams and then the edge of the wood, it'll also capillary into the dowels. It will actually rise up into the dowels because of capillary action. That's the way all the water gets up into the top of the trees, amongst other reasons. But now what I'm going to do to show you can see that the cabinet is flexing. If I clamp this right to the table, look at how much it flexes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go on the inside and put a substantial amount of glue and let it soak in. And the dowels will suck up that glue. And now I'm going to turn this cabinet around. Well, first I'm going to put the glue on the inside of the back. Let that soak in. Find out what the status is of all of this. A little bit more glue here. Let it soak in. And the reason you want to let it soak in is because of the fact that the glue will slowly creep into all of those wood fibers and make it extremely stiff. Now I'm going to hit it with Accelerator. And it's already cured all the glue. I'm just wiping out the excessive Accelerator. Now what I'm going to do is turn the cabinet over and do the same exact sequence for the other side. Now I'm going to go in here let it soak in. And accelerate. Now I'm going to flip this cabinet up, make sure my blanket is all saturated properly. And do the same test by grabbing this. Very stiff, barely moves, barely moves. It's that much more rigid than it would ever be just with those cams. Even though we glued the posts in, the cams are just simply there to tighten this, to eliminate the gap, and then we fill that gap with glue. We're going to talk now about loading the drawers into the cabinet. I've loaded the very first drawer, pushed it all the way in, and then slid it back to have access to these holes that Ikea supplies these machine screws to go into the hole. The problem is that this material is so soft, if you tighten these screws, it'll literally collapse the wood. So what I'm going to do now is reinforce the wood using CA. After I flood the hole with CA, now I'm going to put a little bit of CA on the threads and run it and tighten it. And not only will the screw not collapse the wood because of the strength I've just added to that, it will also keep that screw from ever unscrewing. Now I'm going to do the rest of the drawers and run the screws that hold the drawer slides to the drawers for the rest of the cabinet. We have completed our chest of drawers. In this particular item that's listed in the description, it's called Alex, and there's a link in that description to take you directly to the IKEA store. What I was going to say is that I hope that you like and subscribe this video, that you've learned a lot, and please don't hesitate to comment on what we've done here today, making this piece of furniture last forever. Looking forward to having your comments. Thank you.